the GTO Engineering California Spyder Revival. It is the closest I will ever get, for certain, to, well, being in a Ferrari California Spyder, because I'll never get in one of those. But this probably is better built and drives better than a real one. And before you get cross, allow me to explain why.
Ferrari's 250 California Spyder is a rare beast. Just over 100 were made in both long and short wheelbase configuration. If you want to buy a Ferrari-built one, you'll probably need to own a small country, and then you'll likely just stare at it because 1. Something so precious being used is inherently a scary thing and the worry of it going pop will be crippling, and 2. You'll want to do this.
While it may have been cool to do that in the 80s, it most certainly isn't now. It would upset too many people in tweed, probably, and that's a most depressing thought. Anyway, this may look exactly like a Ferrari California Spyder in every single way, except it isn't one. It is in fact a lovingly hand-built revival car made by the UK's GTO Engineering. Now, GTO's jam is maintaining, restoring and preparing Ferrari road and race cars, but its side hustle is building revival cars, basically replicas of currently 3 of Maranello's greatest hits: the Testarossa, 250 short wheelbase Berlinetta, and this.
The 250 California story is a cool one. See, with Ferrari's many 250 cars doing the business on road and track, with customers getting themselves oily or simply luxuriating around the world to a glorious V12 Colombo soundtrack, the firm got itself something of a rep.
The US became more and more important to the team in Maranello, and the firm's West Coast rep had an idea. What if they took the roof off a 250 GT Berlinetta? The resulting car was essentially that, a Berlinetta without a roof and built by Scaglietti. And you know what? It's perfect.
Is there any shape, past or present, that's just so bang on? It's not gaudy and it doesn't shout about its presence. There's no wasted line or errant wing. It's not needlessly angular to tell passers-by that it's all about sport either. It's pure, simple and purposeful. The purpose, of course, is to announce the driver and their passenger to the world. After all, you're giving passers-by a treat with your presence, though with an original car, well, you can't be that present because there aren't that many of them. However, what if there were more? Kind of.
That's the idea behind the revival. What you do is you take the shape of the original and you build something less pedestal. So what GTO Engineering does is it takes cars that would be beyond repair or restoration, gives them a new lease on life, uses them to create something that you can actually use. Underneath here is a Ferrari 250 GTE that was beyond the pale. From there up, magic happens.
Every part in here is exactly as it would have been in the original car. The switches, the seats, door handles, dials, everything are faithful recreations. The same goes for the V12 under the hood. In here, it's a 3.5 litre punching out 320 brake horsepower, which is enough for 0 to 60 in 6 seconds and more than 150 miles an hour. It's built using new parts made to their original spec and put together properly, so it's less likely to fall to bits. You needn't be afraid to use it.
It's a Ferrari that's not a Ferrari, but you can actually use it. You can use this revival car, which is something GTO Engineering's founder, Mark Lyon, funnily enough, rather likes about it. You see, what he finds with modern supercars is that they've become a bit homogenised. They're very fast, they're too wild to be exploited properly. But you can with this, you can play with it. Because, you know, it's just like they used to make them back in the old days. Anyway, enough waffle. What's it like to actually drive? After I get over the fact that this definitely is not my car and never will be my car, there's a few things that really do stand out. It feels very much like a classic car, but a really, really well sorted one. The steering, for example, there is a little bit of play to it, but I don't worry that the steering wheel's going to fall off. And when I am using it, it's beautifully light. There's not as much feedback as I may have liked, but it's wonderful to hold and it's wonderful to play with. You know, I feel like I'm driving a classic car. I'm not in a rush. steering rack doesn't feel like it's a competition car. The steering rack feels like, yeah, we'll get there when we get there. Turn in, I'll communicate what's going on, don't worry, and around the corner we go. Let's have a play. The brakes, in here they are, the pedals quite hard. I feel like I've got to work a little bit for these. There's quite a bit of resistance, but once you get it, they do work. But I'm hoping I don't have to stop in a hurry anytime soon. I imagine that's one of the things you get used to when you have the car for more than, say, 6 hours and, you know, live with it, perhaps, maybe. They are responsive, they are unassisted. Just like all of the car, there's no modernism, there's no silly frippery, there's no ABS to back you up, there's none of that. It's you and the car, you're on your own. Throttle is beautiful, it's instantaneous. It links up with that V12 so wonderfully. You don't have to wait for a turbo to spool. You don't have to hope that the electrons kind of match at the right time at the right place. You just go. Instant response with instant noise, and it feels so good. It's such a wonderful car to be a part of. I do feel like I'm sitting a little high up here. I feel more on than in it, but I do feel like I'm part of the machine. This is an experience. So with that millimetre perfect tactility with all of the controls, it's blinding. The gearbox, well, it's GTO Engineering's version of that 5-speed. It's notchy. It feels good. It feels good. A decently light clutch, a revvy engine. You just want to keep changing gears because the motor's so revvy. You can. It's beautiful. This is one of those rare cars that you get in it and just go, oh, I like everything about this. There are flaws, but I still like everything about it. It gets a free pass. The flaws, there are a couple of quite glaring ones. The roof, for example, there isn't one. GTO decided not to really bother with it because the ones in period were a bit of a pain in the bum, so why bother? The other is the pedal box. Now this is like the most first world problem, but the brake and the gas are really close together. Designed for, well, Italian men in the 60s with beautifully slender shoes. But if you try to wear something like, I don't know, a Chelsea boot, you're very close to mashing the two together, which is not ideal. So if you are going to drive it, I recommend trainers. This is a proper driver's car, but not to do big skids and heroics and watch this moment, but to go out and enjoy.
It's quick, tactile and engaging. You have to work for everything and you get a warm, fuzzy, smug feeling when everything goes just so. I am rather in love with this thing, even though there's no roof.
Well, that and the fact it cost the thick end of £900,000, depending on spec, to get into one, that's probably a bigger hurdle. Anyway, what this revival car does is pretty special. It gives us more V12 deliciousness, more glitz, more glamour, more style, but with less worry. And that, my friends, is no bad thing, whether it was built in Maranello or not.